right, we're recording, and today we are going to start with Kira Bennett, who is from the School Land Trust Office, and she's just going to give us some updates on what's going on and what we can look forward to coming up soon. So go ahead, Kira.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen really quick. Let's see here. Okay, can everyone see the slide that says School Land Trust?
We can.
Okay, perfect. All right, thanks again for having me here today. I wanted to extend a huge thank you from my team to all you that are here and that will be watching this recording. I know there's that big process change for charter business administrators to jump in and take on some extra responsibilities around school land trust plan approvals. And the reception to that has just been so positive, so good. We've already had a lot of corrections that have made that you all are catching and letting us know about. So we can't thank you enough for just how eager you have been to be participants, really close participants in this process, and just know that you have all of our gratitude for that. So I'm just going to touch on just a few things today. Just a couple reminders. So really quickly go over some button-up items on the final report reviews, which are wrapping up hopefully for most of you tomorrow for the due date. And then upcoming plan reviews, which is the next step. And then a couple of reminders about uploading the FY25 budgets for School Land Trust based off on some information that we just learned as well too, and hopefully will help you out. So I'm going to send out, or I'm going to send this slide deck to Lisa, and she'll be able to send it out all to you so that you can refer back to this information. So don't feel like you have to take notes or anything. I have a quick reminder of timeline and requirements, just so you kind of have a view of what schools are doing within our program. The parts that you're involved on are the highlighted parts. So we're ending the end of the requirements for this year. So it's the final report and upcoming plan. Final report, again, we're buttoning these up. They were how funds were spent in the prior school year. So schools are reporting back on program participation for FY23. We upload the distribution on our end, and then you guys, of course, report the expenditures in UPEFs, and that's transferred over to us on January 15th annually for the past prior completed year. Reminder, these are required by law to be done March 1st. And just a reminder that you can set due dates for these, because the March 1st deadline is yours to have it reviewed, but you can set due dates that are a week or 2 weeks ahead of that for them to be submitted to you. So just a reminder for next year when final reports are open. And what completed means for a final report, again, it's that it was entered and submitted on the reporting website and that you have approved it. And then following that, the school will send it to their local or governing board for review too. So final reports are pretty straightforward. And if any of you are bumping against the deadline or having any issues with that, please reach out to our team, and we're happy to help in any way we can. I'm going to kind of just leave this slide in here for you to review later. It's how do you review for a final report, and what are you assuring when you approve it? Just the biggest thing, making sure that the expenditures match your financial records, because our reporting is only as good as what is reported to us, and we don't know any better when your records are our system of truth. So we rely heavily on you to let us know if there's anything off, and that's where all of our gratitude comes from, because you guys have been doing a really awesome job at that. So thank you. But please refer to this slide if you're still finishing up with final reports when it gets sent out to you. The next thing that's coming up, and kind of the big ticket item, is upcoming plans. And essentially those are just how school land trust funds are going to be spent in the upcoming school year. So for 24-25, councils are currently meeting, whether they started in, everyone does it different, maybe January, February, March, April timeframe, to create those, and then they're going to be coming over to you for the next part of the review process. So just a quick reminder, the distribution in their plan. So when you're actually looking at the plan, the distribution is a set amount, and that is entered on our side. Everything else is the council's estimate. So there will be a place for them to estimate what their 23-24 expenses were, so that they can have an appropriate carryover for budgeting for the next year. Please know that's nothing nothing that comes from our system. That's what the schools are entering. So if there's something weird on that, you can ask them to adjust it and say, hey, that doesn't really reflect what you did spend in 23 to 24. Let's get that updated so you have the most accurate budget at your disposal. These are due to be completed April 15th. You can still go in and set a due date for the principals or directors to submit to you prior to that. If you only have 1 or 2 schools you're looking at, a week is probably plenty of time, as long as if you send it back for edits, they can complete it in that time frame. If you have more schools that you're reviewing for, I'd give yourself a couple weeks, so 2 to 3. Somewhere like Alpine that has 90 schools that they review for, they give themselves about 3 weeks. So just based off of that, you can kind of gauge, and they only have 1 reviewer. What is completed mean for an upcoming plan is a little bit more intense or involved than a final report. So again, councils meet and create the plan. It's presented to their local governing board for approval, and this is behind the scenes. It's not in our system. Sometimes for charters, the governing board is the council, in which case these 2 steps take place simultaneously. From there, if the board approves it, it goes, the principal or director will go in and submit the plan on our reporting website. And that will be accessed under the column that just says upcoming plan for your schools that you're reviewing for. From there, once they submit it, it's going to go to LEA Approver. That's you as the business administrator. And if you need to send it back, they can get back into it, or if you approve it, this one does go to state review. So that's a difference between final report. So the state review is myself, Paula, and Holly on the school land trust plan and or trust team, and we review every school in the state. If we need to send it back for edits, it'll come back to you, and so that you're aware of what we're sending it back for, and then it'll go back to the principal. You'll send it back to the principal. If it gets all the way through the review, funds can be used as planned. And as long as they get to this green bubble by April 15th, those schools will receive their funding in July. If they don't make that deadline, funding can be delayed a couple of months. It just depends on when they meet their requirements. If it's by the 10th of whatever month we're in, they will get funding that month. So if they don't finish, they still have time to get it all the way up through December. A couple things to know for reviewing an upcoming plan. It's the same process as the final report in the system. So you go through, you just make sure that you read it, any attached documents that they might have uploaded. If you need to leave a comment, you can put that into there, and then all you're going to do is select approve and finalize or needs edits and finalize. We have implemented something new this year where there's automated emails that are supposed to notify everyone of involved in the process. So whether you're sending it back to a principal, it's supposed to automatically send them an email saying, hey, your plan sent back. Please look at the comments so you know what to update. And when it gets submitted to you, it's also supposed to send an email saying, hey, this plan is ready for review. Please go in and make a review decision. This is a new feature that was just released on our website. So while we're making sure that it's really working, please just keep close communication with the schools so that if for some reason the email doesn't work, you guys are still on track to get the plan in on time. And then your approval, what does that assure in an upcoming plan? A couple of the things are going to be kind of vetted by the board prior to it getting to you. So things for like measurements for a goal, or if something's evidence-based and consistent with the LEA's pedagogy programs and curriculum, those are kind of shoo-ins because the governing board's already vetted those. But what you want to just make sure is that a goal is student-centered, measurable, academic. It's answering the question, what will students achieve academically in 1 year? If their goal answers that, it's probably a perfectly good goal. If their goal doesn't answer that, it probably needs to be rewritten. The expenditures for each goal are listed and categorized appropriately. So if they're doing salaries and benefits, just making sure, or if they're hiring teachers, that making sure that that was categorized under salaries or benefits, or whatever you anticipate loading it into UPEFs with. The big one this year is specific steps and expenditures to implement the academic goals. And we're going to be sending out some more information on what does specific mean. And that's going to be coming from our training specialist here in the next couple of weeks, Holly Caruso. So watch out for an email for her, and please reach out with questions that you have. Again, I know this is a new process, and so just really appreciate you guys taking the time to learn some of the little nuances. There's two small things. No more than $2 per student is budgeted for student incentives. All that means is if they're planning on doing student incentives, they have up to 2 times their enrollment for their reported enrollment number to budget towards that. And then there's just an appropriate plan for carryover greater than 10%. And again, Holly will send out some more information and a video and some more detailed explanations on what these things mean. So that's kind of it for plan review. The last thing I want to touch on, this is something our team just became aware of. So when you're uploading the FY25 budgets for School Land Trust, those numbers are available now, and I've got it linked in here if you haven't received the email. I know I send it out in January to everyone that is a user in our system at the LEA level. While some of you are still joining at that time, you may not have received it. So there is a link to get to that here. The biggest thing is that even though the vehicle for School Land Trust distribution is at the LEA level, our program is very, very specific to schools, and it's kind of unique that way and probably really annoying to differentiate between all the other programs, but it's so important. And the reason being is that this program money is in a trust, and like a trust in every sense of the word. And so there's really specific laws to how much money each school gets, and how we have to manage that. So, and it's literally down to the penny. This school has to get this. So there's no wiggle room in there. We, on our side, were not aware that when you guys uploaded in UPEFs that there's kind of an auto calculation feature where it distributes program funds depending on enrollment and its own calculation. And it's different than ours, and because we have true-ups and whatnot included in our calculation, we didn't realize UPEFs did that. So I apologize if that's been a headache. Just it's one thing to really pay attention to is that when you go in and upload for School Land Trust, whether that has to be an override or whatever it looks like on that end, you just really have to make sure that the amount that is on the spreadsheet that we send out is the amount that you load. And if you have any questions on that, please reach out. We've gotten some really good feedback on that scenario in general. So you can, again, access the projections here. They are final as of tomorrow. No one can, the only thing that changes is when new charters enter, but all the charters that have are entering or joining us next year have already made determinations on what type of funding that they're going to receive. So we're good to go there. And then if you can also go into the School Land Trust reporting website and the upcoming plan, and it'll have that up that distribution amount in the plan too. And if you have any issues finding that information, please reach out. Again, I'm happy to help. And then kind of a forward thinking reminder, when you report expenditures for FY24 in the fall, something that we're asking you to pay really specific attention to is that you're not reporting more expenditures than are available for School Land Trust. So we had kind of a massive influx of negative carryover this year. And the unfortunate part is our program on the reporting side is not set up for adjustments. It is a very tedious and kind of painstaking process on multiple ends. So I am just as over it as probably you guys are too. So we just please try and make sure that you're checking what was the budget for that school before. If there's any reason something's being overreported, if you're correcting it after the fact, we're never going to know about it. UPEFs only reports to us once and then it's done. And so just making sure that it's fixed prior to that getting sent over. And that is about it. I did toss in a couple of additional resources on here. Here's a big link for the how to review final reports, plans, and amendments that will kind of go in tandem with the information that Holly's sending out. There's a video on how to review final reports, and she's also going to be creating one on upcoming plans in the next couple of weeks. I have the most recent compliance newsletter in here, and hopefully that's been proven to be useful to you. There's so much to know for school land trust that I try and take some palatable bites of different law changes, what we're finding in compliance reviews, so we can proactively prevent that before a school gets to a review. All that's in there. And if you have any feedback on topics that you want to know more about, because I don't think any of us want to go in and read all of the law in one fell swoop for school land trust. So please ask for that, and we'll try and break it down in something that is conscientious of your time and in being a part of the program. And then I also have School for School Land Trust if you need to do a quick reference. And that is about all I have. Here's our contact information. You can reach out to me, Paula or Holly, individually. And we're typically pretty good about having a 24-hour response time. Right now, I am in the crux of compliance reviews and out at visiting all the awesome schools almost every single day in March and through April. And so if you reach out to me directly, it may take a little bit longer than usual. So try to use that group email just so that we can get you a quicker response, because we don't want you waiting multiple days to hear back on information. And that is all I have. So thank you all again. And Lisa, thanks again for inviting us. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it does look like I have a couple of questions for you in the chat though.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was not even paying
Yeah,
attention
you're
to
all
that.
good. So the first one says, regarding not reporting more expense than what was budgeted, does that mean not to report the expense and then to use the transfer in accounts to show general fund revenues to balance the program? Says, I'm assuming that's what you mean, but wanted to make sure.
Yes. So from our program perspective, so we don't see anything on the UPEF side and the transfer of funds. And so from a very uneducated opinion on this side and just telling you how it transfers over to us, I think the answer to that is yes. Any transfers that you're doing from general funds to cover what was originally under school land trust should be taken care of prior to it being put into UPEFs to transfer to us. The bottom line, and you guys can still see my screen, right? The bottom line is that once it gets to the school land trust site, that the carryover is zero or a positive amount. So it's just, and it's whatever is appropriate for you to do on the financial side in order to make sure that happens. And I don't know if I'm just gonna pick on an Alpine school. Let's see. Because the only view we have of your data outside of like a compliance review when we actually go through your general ledger just for our program, this is the extent of the information we get, and that's it. So what happens behind the scenes, we don't know. So hopefully I'm answering your question. Tell me if I'm not, but when it gets to here, this cannot be a negative. And so if you need to do a general funds transfer prior to that, that's what we're going for. So hopefully that answer. If it didn't, please contact me, and I am happy to understand better.
She said that did answer it. So.
Okay, perfect.
And then somebody asked about the slide deck, and I will be sending that out after the meeting.
Perfect.
But that's it. So thanks, Kira. We always appreciate it when you come.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, everybody. So now we are going to head into the presentation on the Charter School Accountability Framework, which I hope you are all familiar with. We're just going to do it really quick because I did promise you a survey and we really want to leave time for you to get to that survey. So like I said, I'm going to go quickly. If you have questions, please just feel free to unmute and ask questions. I really want to hear from you. Questions, comments, anything you wanted to say, but we're just going to go over the financial portion of the framework fairly quickly and then get you off and ready for that survey. I'm going to actually send the email to the survey directly after the meeting. It's ready to go. I just need to click a button, so it shouldn't be too long before you get it. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get started. So I am going to share my screen with you. We are going to start with where you can actually find the Charter School Accountability Framework, just in case you guys aren't familiar with where to go to do that. So let me, all right. So let me just make sure everybody's on. I thought I heard a click. I'll hold on 1 second. Okay. I practiced this before I got on, so I would be perfect at this, and I'm just not. I apologize, guys. Okay. There we go. Okay, got that edited. All right. So let's go back to the right screen. Hold on one moment. I so apologize. Okay. There we are. Okay. So the Charter School Accountability Framework can be found at the Utah at www.utahscsb.org. That is our website for the SCSB. And right here we have the homepage. And if you go down, scroll down to the homepage, you have here what school performance. And when you go here, scroll down some more, and you're going to find the Charter School Accountability Framework. Now, we're going to go over the financial piece of the framework, but it actually includes other pieces as well, such as governance, charter fidelity, enrollment, those kind of things. But I just want you to know where it is and see these things. And if you want to go back later and view it, you can go ahead and do so. That would be perfectly fine. So, okay, got another one to add, sorry. All right, so here you'll see just what the structure is of it. And this is what we do to evaluate the schools when we do our annual reviews and our comprehensive reviews. So the comprehensive reviews are about every 5 years. You should be getting that. So if you look down here, it talks a little bit about that. You scroll down through it, you see this kind of, I don't know what that is actually. So we're going to just keep scrolling down to the part I want to show you. So this is where you find out what they're looking for in the annual review. And if you scroll down further, it will give you what they look for when the comprehensive reviews are done. Like I said, we're going to focus on the financial piece. There's a little bit of difference between the annual and comprehensive, obviously. This is the comprehensive is going to be more detailed, but I'll just let you go ahead and look at that if you want to. I wanted you to know where to find it and where to look at it. This is just basically a summary of it. If you want to look at more detail, there is that other, I went through that pretty fast. It is just the detail part. It tells you how, whatever the metric is, like if it's a financial metric, we'll go down to that. It'll tell you how it's calculated, how it's used, and that's what we're actually going to talk about for the rest of this meeting after we look at this really fast. So these are the financial indicators. This document was last updated, I believe, in 2020. And we have, so we have added a couple of indicators since that time. So it's not complete, but it's a good resource to go and look, basically what the financial accountability or financial, it's not the financial account, it's the Charter School Accountability Framework. All righty. So, and another thing you can look at is if you go to UCAP, this is just the UCAP website that the public sees. So I'm not logged in, as you can see. So anybody can look up this information. If you click on this hamburger button, it's going to give you some opportunities to look at stuff. So we're going to go to financial performance, financial reports. You can create your own financial report here. If you do that, you can see all these checked boxes are the metrics that we're looking at. The other ones that aren't checked, it's generally just like one piece of the formula if you wanted to look at that. So I'm just going to leave it like that and do create financial report. And as you can see, it comes up and it shows all the metrics for, I had all the schools in there for several years. So that's why you're seeing the two come up. But you can see that it gives you what the metric was, how they scored on it for the year. As you can see, we did add a couple of new ones. So that's why these are blank, because they weren't in the system until a year last year. Yeah. So that's where you can find this stuff. If you want to look up your school, if you want to see what's going on, that's where you would look. So I am going to go into our presentation now on the financial metrics so that you just understand how they're calculated, how we use them, and what we're currently doing. So I'll stop sharing this one and start sharing my other one. Alrighty, so like I said, we're going to go over the financial oversight performance indicators. And let me just get up the screen I need to move forward. Always fun. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, so we're going to start first with the unrestricted days cash on hand. These are all going to have formulas. I'm not going to go over the formula for these. The slide deck will be in the email that you received with the survey if you want to look at them more carefully, but I'm just going to go over, like I said, what they're measuring and how we use them. So we'll start here. Unrestricted days cash on hand basically is telling us the number of days that the school can meet its operating expenses without receiving new income. The standard on this one is that you maintain at least 30 days unrestricted cash on hand. Something I want to say about that is that while that is the standard, that is definitely not the optimum amount of cash to have on hand. Okay, so you definitely don't want this to be your goal, but this is what we use as the standard when we're evaluating the schools. If you were to have fewer than that 30 days cash on hand, then that kind of means that the school is not able to operate for more than a few weeks without another cash inflow, and it's at high risk for immediate financial difficulties. And we usually look at this on June 30th, and something that's going to make a difference is if your money makes it into the bank on June 30th or July 1st, that can make a big difference in how much cash you have on hand at the end of the fiscal year. And so that's something we know that might be an issue and we would consider when we're evaluating this too. All right, next one, debt to asset ratio. This measures the extent to which a school relies on borrowed funds to finance its operations. And I'm just going to let somebody in real quick. Sorry. Okay. All right. So measures how much the school relies on borrowed funds to finance its operations. Here, the standard is to maintain a debt to asset ratio of less than or equal to 1. If you have a ratio of greater than 1 on this, it usually indicates that the assets of the school are being funded by debt, and this means that the school could potentially be at risk of not being able to pay off its debt, especially if something were to happen like the cash flows for some reason were to suddenly go down significantly, or if you have a variable interest rate on some of your debt, if that interest rate were to increase, then you could be running into some potential problems. So on this one, the lower the ratio is, the less assets are being funded with debt and the better off the school's position is. All righty, next. Okay, the next one is the current ratio, and this measures the school's ability to pay its obligations over the next 12 months. Here, we want you to maintain a current ratio of greater than or equal to 1 with a positive trend. Usually if it's a positive trend that they're asking for, it's looked at in the comprehensive review more than it is the annual review. And this just basically shows how quickly your short-term assets can be converted into cash to pay your short-term liabilities. So that's what that one is. We're looking at this one short-term as opposed to long-term, which the debt to asset ratio is looking at. And then they look at your multi-year cash flow. And this measures the school's change in cash from one period, change in their cash balance from one period to the next, obviously. We want this to be for the multi-year and the current year. We want those to be positive. And a positive cash flow over time generally indicates that the increasing financial health and the sustainability of the school. Next one, total margin. The total margin measures whether a school is living within its available resources. Here we want you to maintain a positive margin, a 5-year aggregate total positive margin, excuse me. Okay, and what we're looking at here, like I said, is if you're operating within your resources, and it is possible actually for the school to operate at a deficit for a year. And this could be due to a large planned expense or even something that came up during the year. Like I know one thing that's big sometimes for some schools is the HVA system conks out. And so sometimes you're going to have deficits for situations like that. When you're going to have that situation, you want to make sure that you're planning strategically for those things and you're making sure that you do have reserves on hand for when those things do come up. Next is change in net assets. And this is measuring if a school is able to operate within its available resources. Here, you will definitely want it to be positive. And ideally, when you're doing your school budgets, they should be balanced and they should provide for increasing your fund balances and for your reserves, which is basically the same thing. But again, deficit spending would deplete your fund balances. And as such, you need to make sure you're addressing it to make sure it's just a one-time issue and it's not something that's ongoing. Because if it is ongoing, you could quickly find the school being insolvent. Next, this is one of our newer ones. This is the debt service coverage ratio. What this is measuring is the ability to cover your debt obligations in the current year. So very similar to the current ratio. The standard here is that it would be greater than or equal to 1.1. And this basically is measuring whether or not the school can pay the principal and interest due on its debt or its lease obligations in the current year's net income. This is one that if you have a bond, you usually will have a bond covenant that you need to maintain a debt ratio of at least 1.1. So that's common. All right, the next one, we do have one more. The next one is the facilities cost. And basically what we're measuring with this one is the school's financial flexibility. And the standard here is that you have facilities costs of less than or equal to 24% of your revenue. This is similar to the days cash on hand in that this is not necessarily the optimal amount. You having a lower amount definitely would be much better, but this was the amount that we chose for the standard. And so if this were to go, well, let's talk about as a charter school, you have limited amount of funds that you have available to you every year. And you have all these expenses, but your 3 major expenses are generally your facility costs, your teacher salaries, and then there's your curriculum. And you are doing a balancing act to best meet the needs of all of these. And so you have to decide whether you want to put your money into facilities because your program, the facilities are important, or if your program can do a little bit less with facilities, but you want to focus more on the teacher salaries, then you can do that. So it's all a balancing act, and which I know you're well aware of. So on the facilities costs, if you get out of whack on these, then the other two are going to suffer. Your programs are going to suffer. Your teacher salaries are going to suffer. And if those suffer, that's a great way to lose students, and things can just spiral down and get worse. So that's why it's important to make sure that you are balancing these facility costs and making sure that you're not getting too high in that area. And the last one we have is just audit findings. Basically, this is just telling us if your school is managing its finances well. The standard here is no material audit findings. And if there are audit findings, we don't just go with, okay, you had audit findings. We want to look at the nature of those audit findings and what they mean, because an audit finding that's basically procedural isn't as bad as an audit finding, obviously, where for some reason the cash isn't really what we believe it to be, or what we were told it was, or something like that. So that's kind of an extreme example, but I just wanted you to know we do look at the nature of the audit finding and when we're evaluating this, not just the fact that you have one. All right, so that's it for that. I know I went through it quickly. I hope it was helpful. It was more just for a review for your purposes. So as you go into that survey, you kind of know what we're trying to get a feel for. The last thing I wanted to share with you is what we're doing here is we're really looking to redesign our accountability framework so that we want to best meet your needs, and we want to help you out, and we want to hear from you what's working, what's not, and if you have any ideas on making it better. And we're actually, in addition to the survey that we're hoping you will all take, we do have this focus group that we're thinking about putting together, or working on putting together, because we just want to be, like I said, we want to get better, and we want to hear from you. So if you would like to join that focus group, I would love to have you. So please, if you want to be a part of it, just email me and I'll put you on the list. I really don't have any details on it right now, but we wanted to let you know it was coming up. And if you email me, I'll get that out to you as soon as I can. And maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more in a future meeting. So that's it for that. I did want you to know that our next meeting, which will be at the end of March, I think it's the 28th. I'll have to confirm that. Yeah, I'll have to look into that because this extra day has thrown me off. So I'll let you know when it is. We are going to have special education here, and they're just going to go over with financial aspects of special ed for you. And I hope that will be helpful for you. So I'm going to let you go. I am going to send out that survey and the slide deck from Kira as soon as we're done. I look forward to seeing you next month and hearing from you on your survey soon. Thanks so much for attending, guys. I really appreciate it. Talk to you later.